Thank you so much, Chamberlain. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We do business for about 30 minutes. Beginning from the global oil space, where prices eased on Thursday as concerns over weak demand in China, which is the world's largest crude oil importer, and expectations of a nearing ceasefire deal in the Middle East overcame gains in the previous session after draws in the United States inventories. Take a look at the number. It's red, and its features for September that we're looking at is dropped 63 cents right there. Well, we don't have the numbers right yet, but 0.8% is what was dropped from Brent to $81.08 a barrel, while WTI of the United States still for September features slid also lost 63 cents. That's about 0.8% also to $76.96 a barrel. Both benchmarks settled high on Wednesday, snapping consecutive sessions of declines after the Energy Information Administration, that's the IEA, said that crude inventories fell by 3.7 million barrels last week. U.S. gasoline stocks also dropped 5.6 million barrels compared with what was expected of about 400,000. Distillate stockpiles also went down 2.8 million barrels against expectations of 250,000 barrels increase. Now let's do a bit of corporate now, and this is coming from Airtel Africa PLC, one of the telecommunications provider and mobile money service provider in Africa. They're here in Nigeria as well as some countries in East and Central Africa, where we see their result there for the quarter ended June the 30th. We see their revenue increase by 19% in Nigeria, but even more in East Africa. And they keep telling us that this is because of that devaluation of the Naira, the drop in the value of Naira, which we report almost every day. Reported currency revenues declined. They report in dollars by 16.1% to 1.156. That's about $1 billion in Nigeria. And EBITDA dropped also to 45.30% from 49.56%. That's for EBITDA. And then the substantial increase in fuel prices across markets and lower contribution of Nigeria to the group after the Naira devaluation, they say contributed a lot to the decline of EBITDA. That's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. That's EBITDA, the margin that dropped right there. Now, see the profit after tax went up by more than 120% at $31 million. Operating profits was down, however, 27.4% at $335 million. Total customer base grew to 155.4, grew by 8% to 155.4 million. Data usage per customer also increased. We see a lot of people turning to, I think, sort of normal calls, mobile calls, more of WhatsApp and all of that. I guess that would explain this data usage right there. And of course, helping Airtel Africa to increase its profitability. But in all, I guess the factor of Nigeria's currency, the Naira, dropping and what's going on around the foreign exchange space was a deterrent to their increase for the period under consideration. Now we come to properly in Nigeria. Now the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, our friend right here on the business shows, Mr. Abubakar Kyari, says that the new Ministry of Livestock Development will take off after the Presidential Committee submits its report. He adds that the President is anxious for the Livestock Development Initiative to take off.
Mr. President today has expressed his excitement, has expressed his anxiety, and he's very anxious for this to take off. You are well aware that a new ministry has been created by Mr. President, and he is waiting for the report so that the ministry can take off immediately after the report has been submitted by the committee. So everybody is excited. We in the agricultural field were also excited. All stakeholders are very, very excited because there is so so much potential, when you unbundle the livestock sector. And there is the value chain that would create enormous wealth, creation of jobs, and most importantly, nutrition for the food security aspect of the country.
Well, very important conversation, and we have been waiting and are still waiting. We would really love to host the Minister of Agriculture on our show because we know how important that contribution from the food sector or the agricultural sector is to our inflation and everything at the end of the day that we're dealing with, economic challenge, we're dealing with the protests that is being pushed for by the youths in the country for August. I'm sure if they had a lot of food, affordable food, I'm sure that tension would have reduced a whole lot. We look at our inflation numbers and we see the major driver being, of course, food and energy, but food very top on that list. And of course, the creation of that livestock ministry, even though some analysts have said there was really no need for that, the Ministry of Agriculture could have captured, because they do have a department for livestock. But we're expectant, and we will still very much love to host the Minister of Agriculture on our show. And that's why we have that campaign still running. We need to deal with food security in Nigeria. Yes. All right, now let's look at the Naira for yesterday. They say it's summer demand that is causing it, that in spite of a hike in interest rates and in spite of the many interventions we've had recently from the central bank into the currency market, we still see the Naira dropping. It was also a negative one yesterday. We saw a drop from 1,548 Naira 76 kobo to 1,586 Naira 71 kobo. That's a 2.45% drop in one trading session. I learned it was the flip on in the parallel market, but I mean, I'm not very sure about that. NAFEX also recorded a loss of 1.12%, so closed at 1,589 Naira 61 kobo. Let's find out what's really going on. Is this just about the summer holiday and the demand for dollar? I know a lot of people, you talk to them now, they've traveled abroad for the holiday with the children. The children are on holiday, so parents want to make the most of the bonding opportunity that they have now, but must they travel abroad? Anyways, let's discuss this with research manager at financial derivatives company, Teve Kumeka, joins us from Victoria Island. Hi, Teve, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good to have you. But we see the worrying trend with the Naira, and the news going around says it's just summer demand, so we shouldn't be worried. What does FDC see?
Yeah, thank you so much. Like you read, it is correct. The official rate depreciated. But if you look at the parallel market, we have the Naira has regained slightly in the parallel market from 1685 to 1590 per dollar. So on Tuesday, which is on the 23rd of July, the CBN MPC made a decision by hiking rates by 50 basis points. Before that, Naira depreciated because investors were more rational and they were not sure that the CBN was going to hike rates or they were going to hold. Then immediately after the decision was made, the Naira further dipped. What we are seeing in the Naira, in the exchange rate, is based on the cost of borrowing for banks now. It has increased. So banks find it difficult to borrow from the CBN to buy the foreign reserve, the foreign exchange to keep in their reserve. So if cost of borrowing is expensive, this is going to reduce arbitrage in the market. So if there is no gain for arbitrage, speculative behavior of banks or other stakeholders in the forex market will reduce. So the CBN target is basically to stabilize the Naira. We want the Naira to be around 1,500 Naira to a dollar in the next quarter, in this Q3 that we have in 2024. So given all these measures taken by the central bank, the Naira is likely going to stabilize as we enter the third quarter.
Yeah, but Kumeka, we see this in spite of the intervention that the Naira is still depreciating. And that, I mean, in the past, we see that once there's an intervention by the central bank, at least it will gain and try to stabilize. Of course, we celebrate the reduction in the gap between the official and the parallel markets. But I mean, seeing the drop in spite of the CBN's intervention, doesn't that worry you?
Yeah, we are worried because the hike is basically to attract foreign investors, new hot money from foreign investors. So this tells you that what happens in the forex markets are multifaceted. Is not just the hike in interest rates that will bring in hot money. There are other risks, and investors are very sentimental about risks and other things that go on in the forex market. So increasing the risks is going to affect businesses. Yes, savings will increase. You are going to attract foreign investors that will bring in foreign currency. Yeah, savings has a positive relationship with interest rates, but investment has a negative relationship with real interest rates. So to achieve the stability in exchange rates, the CBN needs to go beyond just hiking rates and look at other factors that play in the forex markets.
All right, so let's look at commodities now, prices. And of course, we do know that the Naira is what is being used for these commodities, but it's harvest season. We should have a bit of relief. What's really going on with commodities prices?
Yeah, we are entering harvest season. New yams are out, but surprisingly, the price of 3 tubers of yam has increased to about 18,000 naira. That is surprising. So that tells us that the general prices of commodities is not just seasonality, whether we're in the harvest period. They are more structural than just anchoring on one issue about we're entering the harvest season. We have issues of energy costs, we have issues of transportation insecurity, which the CBN government mentioned as a factor of increasing price of commodities. So if the structural issues are being handled, then we might see stability in price, because farmers are harvesting, but how do they move their harvest? How do they move their produce to the end users? That's a major challenge. So if there are disruptions in supply chain, then harvesting will not make any significant effect in bringing down the price of commodities. But not to forget, we observe the collaboration between the monetary policy and the fiscal policy, whereby the government, the waiver on import duty and levy on some commodities. That we also, in the third quarter of 2024, we're likely going to see prices of commodity go down.
All right, thank you so much, Teva Kumeka, research manager with Financial Derivatives Company. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
So the issue with the quality of petroleum products and, of course, Dangote is still in the news. We'll get on that on the other side of the program. Stay with us. Just a break. welcome back to watching Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We're turning attention to the oil and gas sector. The quality of petroleum products in circulation in Nigeria has been in, well, a bit of a controversy in recent times. It all started with the NMDPRA asking that or alleging that the diesel from Dangote refinery is substandard. And then the lawmakers themselves went there, led by the speaker, went there to check for themselves to have a first-hand information, and then they did the test themselves with, in the laboratory at Dangote. Well, since we've known there's been updates on that, lawmakers and other individuals asking for the sack of the NMDPRA boss, and we've had a lot of voices speaking for the Dangote refinery. But there are other players in that sector, the modular refineries. There are other refiners, domestic refiners. And they say they have actually been facing some of these issues even before now, only highlighted by Dangote, since Dangote is a giant, we know, in the rail sector of Nigeria. We have joining us to share some of their perspective of those modular refineries, Mr. Eche Idoko. He's the Publicity Secretary of Crude Oil Refiners Association of Nigeria, Koran. Mr. Idoko, good morning, and thank you for your time.
Yeah, good morning. It's good to have me again on your program.
Great. So this issue of the quality of petroleum products in circulation, we know the lawmakers have said they're investigating. High sulfur is a challenge this time. The flashpoint. What's the perspective of Koran?
Oh, okay. I think there's been a bit of sensationalism with that particular report. And there is a need for downstream and midstream, which is emerging, for us to de-escalate and properly put issues in perspective. First of all, we want to say that the issue of sulfur content, which was highlighted by the NMDPRA, does not automatically make products bad. What it meant was that it makes the product more environmental friendly. The modular refineries and Dangote, as a case with your refineries in Nigeria, haven't been producing outside what is within the circle. The declaration of the ECOWAS ministers was supposed to start with effect from January, so they have till January to regularize whatever is the requirement for the sulfur content as stipulated by the new NMDPRA guidelines. So in a real sense, the issue of sulfur that had been jumped on, it does not warrant the kind of attention that has been given to it, or rather it has been blown out of proportion by a certain interest. Because I can tell you that as before January this year, products that were imported into the country was a minimum of
Looks like, well, unfortunately, it looks like the network of Mr. Idoko's device is not very strong at this time. So Mr. Idoko, can you hear me? Okay, so I guess we may not be able to have that conversation with Mr. Idoko, but we will try to get him, perhaps get him in the studio and be able to get that conversation. I hope we can do it tomorrow, depending on his schedule. But unfortunately, the network does not allow us to do that, to have this conversation right now. But the modular refineries are the smaller refineries. And of course, they do contribute to the stock, petroleum product stock in the country. And well, it would be nice to also get their perspective and how they are dealing with this issue of the quality of petroleum products that they also share in circulation in the country. But yesterday, if you watched our news at 10, we did bring you a report. The issue of oil thefts is still a challenge, still dwindling the official crude production in the country, and of course, leaking our revenue on what we could use. So in River State, that was discovered. Our reporter, Charles, was there and saw the Navy went around to capture an incident or an area which has been used for that. We'll try to bring you that report that Charles filed in. I hope we can do that before the end of the program. If we do not, you could just watch Channels Television for more of that. Let's see if we can get into the market, since we're not able to have the conversation with Koran, but we promise to bring it to you in the nearest future. If not tomorrow, we'll do it next week, God's grace. So let's look at how the market fared yesterday at the close of trade. The NGX was again in the red. The day before it was 0.08%. Yesterday it dropped 0.12%. Still hovering around 100,000. I don't know if that's any comfort at this time, but we lost 68 billion Naira from the market cap to close at 56, beg your pardon, 0.83. The sectors, banking is still having to deal with profit taking, almost 1%. There you have it, down. Consumer goods also down. Industrial goods recovered, as well as insurance. Oil and gas maintains the status of unchanged. And we know, I think FCMB, they're holding their facts behind the figures today. So there's still a whole lot of activities going on around the banks. So, but it's not one way. If there are gains, then somebody has to take the gain. And talking about FCMB, they topped the trades yesterday. They traded 133.292 million in volume. Access Co, we know they're in the market at this time. They followed as of the top trade. Zenith Bank was also part of the top trades. And so you have the banking still going on there. Of course, they're asking for you to trust in them and put your money there. Well, but that's up to you. And if you get your findings. Now, let's see if we can bring that report by our reporter, Charles, in River State, on the issue of oil theft, which is still a major challenge for the country.
In a well-concealed private compound in Okozi village, somewhere in Oba Ebemandoni local government area of River State, naval operatives have made a massive discovery.
You can see. Good boy. Even me too, I don't begin.
They are part of the Navy's Operation Delta Sanity from the Nigerian Navy ship Pathfinder. The commander says this illegal facility was discovered by their intelligence team.
About 2 to 3 weeks ago, the Nigerian Navy extended the Operation Delta Sanity operations, which is made to cut the incidence of crude oil theft in Niger Delta. My main Nigerian Navy ship, Pathfinder, through our intelligence, were able to discover this place. And you can see these bags. See all of them? Thousands of them, including the one we saw in the drums, were used to siphon and refine illegal products from the pipelines.
The commander adds that the two suspects will be handed over to the prosecuting agencies, even as he estimates the facility's capacity at over 200,000 liters.
We don't have the measurement, but for what you can see, you have seen the tanks, over 62 of them. Each of them contain about 1,000. And you see thousands of this one here, including the one he has converted a poultry, so to speak. He converted it into a warehouse. There are thousands of them there. It could be about 200,000 or above.
The owner of the facility says he uses the proceeds from his illicit business to supplement his legitimate income and that he makes over 4.5 million naira every month.
It's just for me to meet up for the expenses and for, you know how the country be. No matter anything they carry for going for road, even though if original, they will ask you for something. So after everything, nothing come out.
200,000 liters of suspected illegally refined products are in this private facility here. They say 2 suspects have been arrested and are in custody, even as they continue to investigate to catch those involved in this massive operation.
So that's it, all theft. Even in a neighborhood that one might not even expect or suspect, is still going on. But somebody did ask, is it possible to channel what we call illegal refining into the official and legal space and capture that as a product? We're talking about availability of petroleum products. You know, is that possible? Well, it's not in my place to say. An expert will have to say that, but this is a continuing conversation. And yes, we'll try to get the perspective of Koran and all of this issue tomorrow or by next week, God's grace. We'll reach out to Mr. Idoko since we couldn't have that conversation due to the network failure right there. But that's the much we can take on this side of business. Let's head back to the Sunrise Daily Studios.